brake caliper overhaul. Now this brake caliper, you look at this, definitely it's time for new brake pad already. Now do subscribe to my channel, press on the bell button for notification, and thumbs up after watching my video. Now I use this brake pad feeler gauge to tell if it's time to get a new brake pad. When the thickness of the brake pad matches the yellow gauge, it is about time to change it. Always also check both sides for certain. The opposite side is thinner for my case and is already in the red gauge region, and immediate action are required. First, I'll use a 3-ton jack to slightly lift the car a little first. Then, I use this 22mm deep socket and a breaker bar to break loose all the lug nuts. Then only I jack up the car higher so that the jack stand can be placed at the dedicated location at the side. I will then remove the lug nuts and then the tire at both sides. Caliper. Turn the steering wheel to the right while working on the right side. It allows me to have more space to work behind. The brake pads are held using 13mm mounting bolt. I use a torque wrench to loosen this 13mm nut up there and down here. Remove the hydraulic U-bracket to clear up more space up there. Next will be the 17mm nut that mounted the caliper to the hub. A universal joint set will be useful to loosen this. This is a 17mm bolt. This is from another angle to loosen a 17mm bolt. I made this 20 cm long S-hook to hang the brake caliper. You may want to buy a S-hook like this online, but I decided to do it myself because I would use it once or twice after 5 years. Place the caliper on top, supporting the weight of the caliper. This is the specification of the new brake rotor I bought online the other day. It's specified the minimum thickness of a rotor is 20 points. A new rotor is about the same price as getting the old rotor resurfaced. Why not get a new one then, since I'm doing it myself? The old rotor has really deep grooves line form. Definitely it's time for a new rotor. No point resurfacing it. Next, I will clean the hub surface. It has started to rust. A rusty surface will cause a rotor not to be mounted evenly. Wire brush can be used to remove the rust from the hub surface. Then I will clean all anti-rattle clips at caliper. Clean with wire brush, then spray with brake cleaner. It helps remove all the brake dust gathered around there after 5 years, 6 years down the road. Wipe it with a cloth later. Squeeze small amount of brake lubricant onto the surface at the anti-rattle clips. Then the anti-rattle clips can be placed back into its position. Be aware that the pad ear faces outwards. Make sure it sits nicely onto the space at the caliper. Next, I would service the caliper guide pins. The top pin and the bottom pin is different. I would advise not to remove both pins at the same time to avoid placing it back at the wrong hole later. Show you the difference between the two pins. I use rubber grease for rubber bush and brake lubricant for the metal pins. Those brake lubricant is actually anti-seize. I do not want a sliding pin to actually jam and stuck. I'll clean one pin at a time. I'll pull the rubber bush gently out from the housing and spray the pin with WD-40 oil, and then you clean in the surface with wire brush. Then spray brake cleaner onto the pin and then also the hole to clean up any residual form into the hole. You need a lot of brake cleaner. Then slot in the rubber bush back into the pin. Then only apply rubber grease onto the top so that it will flow downwards onto the pin around the rubber bush area. Squeeze in small amount of brake lubricant into the caliper slide hole and push the pin in and out, sliding along the hole for a few times to properly loop the pin. Do the same for another side. Loop the anti-rattle surface evenly with the brake grease for the brake pad to sit onto it later. Then I clean the hub backplate with WD-40 oil. It helps better in removing the dust form, also some rust form onto the surface, the backplate. A wire brush is a must for servicing a brake system. Then I will spray a brake cleaner again before applying a brake grease onto the hub surface. You can see the brake cleaner, it's really volatile. It actually dry out. It actually evaporates immediately after you spray onto the surface. I will then use a cloth to wipe clean the backplate. Now I bought this Bendix General CT brake pad online. The design of this brake pad allows user to know when to replace the pad. The indicator is very close to this level. I will clean both sides of the rotor with brake cleaner to prevent any oil from sticking onto the surface. And then I will mount a lug nut on the lower bowl to help hold the rotor into place while working on the caliper behind. First, mount the caliper onto the hub using this 17mm bowl. Torque it to 30 foot-pound. Now, the universal joint set is really useful for tight area here. Then fix the hydraulic line. Push it through from behind so that it fits into this hole. This U-clip will use to fix the holes into the place. Tap it gently at the side until it fits the hole properly. Then the caliper. Spray the brake cleaner to remove brake dust gathered around the rubber bush before pushing it back into piston. Now use the brake pad spreader to widen the gap to fit the new brake pad. Screw in the handle until the piston is flush with the side. It is flat, so that the new brake pad that's thicker can fit into this gap. Install the new brake pad into the place by sliding the pad at an angle and then push it flat against the rotor. Final step will be to place the caliper into position slowly. I apply some blue Loctite medium strength glue onto this 13mm bowl. Then I torque it with maximum 30 foot-pound on each bowl. I like this 12 points socket. It is really useful for tight area. It moves better. Next, I will need to remove all the air traps inside the brake line. I need a 8mm box wrench to loosen the brake bleeding screw. I first remove the screw fully to check if it's rusty or any rust blocking the hole. For my case, it is clear. Then I'll tighten the screw back, and then I'll place a 10mm hose with a zip tie at the brim of the hose to secure the hose onto the bleeding screw. I place the bottle with some brake fluid on top of the bleeding screw. A level higher than the bleeding screw. Then use a long breaker bar to help push the sinking brake pedal all the way to the floor. The bleeding screw is loosened earlier. Pressure builds up at the brake booster helps push all the air inside the brake line out through this bleeding screw holes. Then tighten the screw to prevent air from being sucked into the system. Now, you need to perform this compress the pedal, brake pedal, loosen the screw, tighten the screw, release the brake sequence 4 to 5 times until no more air is being squeezed out from this hose. Remember to tighten the 8mm screw using the box wrench after finish bleeding the line. Apply the same procedure to another side. Press the brake pedal all the way to the floor. Release the bleeding screw. Wait for air to be released from the screw. Then tighten the screw. Then release the brake pedal. Now repeat this 4 to 5 times. Okay, just like the other side, until no more bubbles comes out. Remember to always top up the brake fluid with new fluid. And remember to always place the white cover back. Now this is really important to prevent a sinking brake pedal. If there's any air trapped in the brake line, you get a sinking brake pedal. Now it takes a few hours to perform this brake system overhaul. It's really time consuming, and therefore normally workshop here will only do it upon request by car owner. But the problem is the car owner sometimes does not know what to do. So therefore, they will do it upon request by the car owner. I will torque the lug nut with 80 foot-pound, and that's all the steps involved for this brake system overhaul. Hope you have gained something new after watching this video. And thank you. Give your thumbs up. See you in my next video.